have 9 o'clock. You have to stop talking now, Dan. We'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call. Signed in here.
Oh, yep, present.
Big good president.
Nancy's not sure yet.
No, I pushed, but I guess
Okay.
didn't push hard enough.
Okay, 19 yes and 2 excused. Presentation of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Motion by Halsted, second by Enigo. All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Okay, correspondence, you have the unassigned fund balance in there, and Mr. Administrator, you have something?
Nope, not for that part. We'll do it
Not
under
for the,
comment. Yep,
Which one did you want that on?
the comment.
Oh, yeah, okay. Public comment?
Sure, I just had one. I placed it out on your desk, but Wayne and I had attended the Wisconsin Build Awards last week, and I just wanted to include that on your packet. You'll see that we obtained 2 awards. One is for what they consider renovation, and that was, I guess it was a category where they actually had it set by how much the project was set in terms of the dollar amount. So for example, they had like 3 to 5 million, 5 to 15 million, and so forth going on. And then obviously later in the evening, they did the Historic Preservation Award, which we did receive. The one thing that I thought was neat is that of all the awards, I guess towards the end of the night, there was actually what they considered the 3 big awards. One was for projects where you had special partnerships, and that was for the Fox, or the Appleton, their new convention center. One was for technology and innovation, which I forgot the name of the project, but that was the other category. And the other big category was historic preservation. So the one thing that I also thought that was really neat is that for the judging of the projects, what they did is they actually sent all the applications and they actually shared them with the state of Colorado. So the state of Colorado is actually, their association actually judged all the projects, and Wisconsin judged theirs. And I guess it was just kind of neat to see, Door County represented in 2 of those categories. So I just wanted to include the packet that was in there, but I thought it was just a nice little feather in the cap as far as being able to receive those awards. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other correspondence?
There is one other gentleman that wants to speak. Under public comment.
Public comment?
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on the...
Could you come up to the mic over here, please? Give your name and address.
Yeah, my name's Ed DeMaio. I'm in, on Double T, 5338 Double T in Surgeon Bay. And I understand that the legislative committee is considering having an up-down vote on medical marijuana and recreational marijuana. Yes, no on both. I totally support that. And the reasons why I do is because of we are so dependent on tourist dollars here. And a lot of the states, Michigan is medical right now, Illinois is medical. Canada just went recreational. We're surrounded by communities who are opening their legislation up to legalizing this prohibited substance that's natural. And there's, on the other hand, there's a lot of, if you go to Google Scholar and Google apoptosis and cancer, there'll be hundreds of thousands of certified peer-reviewed studies from Harvard Medical School, all the medical schools around the world, that cannabis, among other diseases, is very strong cure for cancer. For some reason, high levels of THC in the body, the cells, the tumor cells, remember that they're mutant, and the suicide switch, which prevents them from dying, is reversed, and the tumor cells die. It's one medical study after another. I read it over and over again, and it's just amazing that with such an inexpensive plant that is related to, I think, 42 different diseases that it has very, these studies have proven improvement in all these disease areas. Why is it illegal? How many people have died of, with alcohol, there's liver cirrhosis, there's the chance of pneumonia, the death rate on alcohol is ridiculous. I don't know anybody who's ever died from smoking marijuana. And so so I'm confused, and I'm elated if the county goes ahead and just gets a feel for what the citizens are wanting to do with this subject. But it's changing all around the country. The tax dollars in these states that have gone medical and recreational is phenomenal, and I think it would be further boost reasoning for people to travel here and to spend time here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Anybody else? All right. Supervisor response. Any supervisor wish to respond to the gentleman? Mr. Verley?
I don't have a response to him, but to the Historic Preservation Award, the last page, the bottom sentence, as a result,
I see it at the Dane County. Yep. I didn't write it.
and I don't know who all is going to look at this, but there should be a correction to that it's Door County,
Yep.
not Dane.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks. Yeah, just to respond to what Mr. DeMaio shared with us, I understand that we're going to be discussing a possible non-binding advisory referendum next month. And in the meantime, a lot of information has been collected, I believe, and is being collected on what other counties have done. And there's some community conversations going on. I just wanted to let everyone be aware of that through the alcohol and other drug, I'm going to say committee, and that's wrong. Coalition, thank you. And so I just wanted to add that in as well. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
I was just,
Voltman?
Mr. DeMaio, could you clarify, you had said there was a reference, a website or something to reference online to look up cancer? There was a word you used that I wasn't.
Yeah, apoptosis is
Apoptosis.
is when a cancer cell dies.
Oh.
So if you do on Google Scholar, not on Google, regular Google, but on Google Scholar, if you Google apoptosis and cancer, over 100,000 medical studies. I read a few of them, and it's everyone. It's the same thing. High levels, and the tumors melt. It's something we've known forever, and it's something, I don't know if it's a political thing, pharmaceuticals. You can grow this stuff in the ditch. You don't need, it's interesting.
Thank you. Apoptosis?
Apoptosis.
Like OBTOSIS?
I'm not
Something
a
like that?
speller.
OP.
Yeah, it corrects pretty well.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else? No? Okay. Moving on, approval of the minutes of September 27, 2018, regular meeting.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Burley, who seconded? Mr. Bacon. Any questions, comments, corrections, additions to those minutes? Yes.
The clerk is already working on a correction to one of the votes. Helen got to vote twice.
That's the one I was going to bring up, yeah.
And she's a really good county board member, but she shouldn't get to vote twice. Sorry.
So that will be changed. All right, anything else? If not, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Pending business updates, nothing there? Okay, then we're going to go down to special reports, NWTC update, Dr. H. Jeffrey Rafn, President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. and it's a pleasure to be able to speak to you today about what is happening at NWTC and what we're doing. As you can see, I put in front of every one of you this folder, just a little light reading, but you'll find in the folder the budget for this coming year, of which you'll see a modest increase. We're subject to the same limits that you are in terms of the amount of property tax that we can put in place. It's only based on net new construction. In fact, this last year, the property tax levy for Door County was virtually the same. It was actually a little bit less, but not enough that anybody would notice. And then on the other page, you'll see strategic directions, which we'll talk to shortly, and Friends magazine, which we consider all of you to be friends. So certainly if you haven't seen it, I'd encourage you to take a look at it. Just to remind you that our college serves about 30,000 people a year. 16,000 of those people are taking credit courses. The other 14,000 are typically non-credit, and those will be things like CPR. It will be real estate licensing, beverage servers, things that you're familiar with. About 2,000 of those students are from Door County, and we continue to obviously serve residents from Door County at our Green Bay campus, but also at our Sturgeon Bay campus. In the back is Cheryl Tiemann, who is the manager of the Sturgeon Bay campus. And then, of course, we have our new facility up in Sister Bay, the Learning and Innovation Center, which I'll speak to just briefly. Number of new programs as we continue to look programmatically at what we need to do, but we've invested heavily more into the agricultural, specifically organic agriculture, organic vegetables, the dairy sciences. We've started a health navigator program, an event management program. And then we've done a lot of work with our local schools. We went from 3,000 students that were receiving dual credit to 5,000 students receiving dual credit last year. That number will undoubtedly go up. If they were all to cash in their credits, that's a savings of $1.6 million. Of course, they don't all come to NWTC. Some of them take those credits to UWGB and other places. But just last year alone, we had $600,000 worth of credits that students received that had actually come to our campus for which they did not have to make payment. So that certainly continues on our way of trying to make higher education more affordable for our students. We've received a lot of public recognition relative to our efforts to improve student success and the persistence rate and completion rate at our college. Even as enrollments have declined, given as we came out of the Great Recession, our enrollments of high school students have stayed steady and actually have grown. And also what we see is that the number of graduates that we have has stayed fairly steady. So those that are coming to our college, more of them are completing and more of them are persisting. So the numbers of students coming out with the skills needed by our businesses and our community is occurring. I just talk a little bit about what's going on in Sister Bay. As you know, that facility opened. We had the ribbon cutting, I think it was sometime in the spring. And it's doing very well. We've got 36 students up there receiving credit, although that really wasn't the reason that that was put there. It was more the fact that we're running workshops and seminars out of there. We're doing business training, which have been requested by folks that were there. We have 67 folks engaged in those right now, and plus we have numerous agencies that are using that place to hold their own meetings and to do their own things. In fact, the Learning and Retirement, which, as you know, is very active in the Sturgeon Bay campus, also has used that facility. So right now, we're very pleased. I should mention also we have 4 people up there using the kitchen incubator and running their businesses, and we have 1 actually that's using our facilities in Sturgeon Bay. So we expect that to continue to grow as well. We continue to work very closely with the universities. It may surprise you to know that we have now 33 transfer agreements with UWGB, where students can literally transfer into junior status, not just so they'll come to our college. A fair number of them are in engineering. As you may know, UWGB now has an engineering college. We've worked very closely with them to create the engineering technology programs as well as the mechanical engineering that is underway. But I'd like to spend most of the time to you just talking a little bit about the strategic directions. You know, we spent all of last year talking to various folks in the communities, touring businesses. We had over 1,000 people that were engaged, either from business, the community, from school districts, and participating in what we should be doing over the next 5 years as institutions, as a college. And that has formed the basis for what we're going to do. If you really don't want to read this document, which I would encourage you to read if you want to know, you know, certainly in the beginning it talks a little bit about how the system is set up. It also talks about our performance. It talks about the occupational profile of all of the counties we serve, including, of course, Door County. And it talks about the demographic profile. But if you want to skip all of that, you can go right to page 42, and that's where the strategic directions actually start. And you'll see that on page 42 to 47. Not only do we have the strategic directions, but we have set quantifiable goals that we intend to hold ourselves accountable to by 2023 over the next 5 years. If you want a shorthand cut in your book, you also have this. This has just got the goals in it, not the metrics, but I know you'll probably at some point wonder, I wonder what their goals were, and you just pull this right out, and it's right there available to you, but that's certainly available. But I've asked our new Vice President for Learning, Catherine Rogalski, to come and talk to you about some of the highlights in the strategic plan. Catherine came to us after serving about 20 years in the community college system in Illinois, right across the border, although she's always lived in Wisconsin, so I can assure you she is a Packer fan. And frankly, actually has owned property. Her parents have owned property up in Door County for I don't know how long. 40 years, okay. So she's actually a member here. She's only been with us 2 months, so be kind to her. If you ask her a question and I answer it, it's only because she's still learning. But I like to throw people into the fire right away when they start working for us. So, Catherine.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. And as Dr. Rafn said, I have been, I feel like I've been part of the Door County community all my life. In fact, my first job was in Door County at Kurt's Corral, where Jim paid me about $1 an hour so that I can get a trail ride at the end of the day. So I'm happy to be here. I'm actually living in Egg Harbor now, but we'll be building in Forestville, so I will remain a part of this community. So as Dr. Rafn said, I've been here for 2 months, and I am going to be talking to you a little bit about the things that I've learned we're going to be doing at NWTC over the next 5 years. There's some really exciting things and good things for our students, for our community, and for our employers. So one of the first things that you'll see, and Dr. Rafn talked about the dual credit that we're offering our students in high schools. We know that students in high school that earn college credit are more likely to go on to college and to complete college. So we have a goal to get the students in high schools 9 college credits before they graduate. And those credits are not just going to be in random classes, elective classes. These are college credits that are going to put them on a career path so that when they come to NWTC or when they transfer to their university, they will be already on their path. We also want our students at NWTC to have a career plan when they come to us. So we want to make sure that students spend their time valuably at our institution, that they're not taking extra credits and extra time that they don't need. We know both of our traditional age students and our adult students need to know how they can come in, take classes, and complete in a career field that's going to earn them a living wage. So we're going to help them with that when they come into our doors and make sure that 100% of our career students, our program students, are getting that plan. one of the biggest things that we're going to be doing that I found out when I came is changing all of our curriculum to an 8-week schedule. So if you are familiar with a traditional college schedule, you come in, you register for your classes in fall, you take classes for 16 weeks, and then you move on to your next semester in the spring. Research has shown, and some of our institutions that we've looked at have shown that it's a lot of times it's hard for students to remain engaged and retained over that 16-week period. It's sometimes hard for students to come in and start their program right away, especially if they have college credits that they've earned in high school and they may have to wait a semester to begin. We also know that many of our students have life challenges that causes them to have to drop out early. If they have a job issue, if they have a home child issue, they may have to leave during the semester, and that would cause them to lose all their credits. So what we want to do is make college more attainable for more students by changing to an 8-week semester. We feel that this will keep our students engaged over that 8-week time plan. They will be able to take the same amount of credits in a semester, but they will take maybe 2 classes in that first 8-week period and 3 classes in the second 8-week period. That would mean that if something happened during that semester or that 8-week period, students could stop out. They wouldn't lose all of their credits. They wouldn't lose a whole semester, and they could jump right back in 8 weeks. So we're hopeful that that's going to happen over the next 5 years. Dr. Rafn has said that he's interested in having it happen sooner. So we're going to be working hard. We've already started putting teams together to make sure that we're just open and available for students to come right in and start where they are. We are also really interested in making sure that our students have the employability skills that they need when they come into the workforce. So it's not just a Wisconsin issue, it's a national issue that students who leave college, whether it's a community college, a technical college, or a university, often come out with the skills they need, but they don't necessarily come out with the employability skills, the communication, showing up on time, dressing right. So we're working on that in all of our programs. We also want to increase our transfer partnerships. We have 33 transfer partnerships right now for our students to leave NWTC, take all of their credits with them, start at junior status at many different institutions, and we're working to increase that so that our students have a path to go after they leave us at NWTC. And then finally, I would say that we would want, what our goal is in 5 years is to reduce our public operational costs per graduate. So we're looking to reduce our graduate costs by 1% in the next 5 years. 1% a year, yes. All right, any questions? I know I threw a lot at you. It's a lot of good work, and it's a lot of work to help our community. Yes?
Regarding the 9-credit thing, I've been familiar with that, but could you clarify, if a high school student is taking college-level classes in high school, working towards those 9 credits, does that bank towards their college credits once they enroll in the system?
Yeah.
Or does that also qualify or independently count towards their credits while they're in high school? Or is it both? Is it dual?
Yeah, it's both. It's the dual credit, and that transcribed credit, they actually leave high school, and what our goal is not just to get them to credits, but to get them the credits on the career path that they choose. So if they want to go into a specific path, we will make sure that they're taking credits that are aligned with that path, and when they come to us, they will count right towards their degree to reduce their time to completion, which goes into that 8 weeks so that they can just jump right in and get started. Yes?
Can you kind of explain, it's right on that question, how that looks for a high school student? Because they have AP classes they receive some college credit for. They may have class. Is it the same? Is it different? How do they fit that in their day?
Yeah, I think that it's varied in different high schools, and maybe you want to answer that. But from what I understand, there's a schedule, and we work closely with the high schools. We have somebody who works very closely with all the high schools, making sure that if they have a need and they want to offer a class, we work with them so that they're offering the college class. It's not a high school class that we're accepting credit for. They're actually offering the college class at the high school. We work with their instructors, and it's per their schedule. So it makes sure that the high school students can fit it in during their day.
Thank you.
Yes, sure.
Maybe just add a little bit to that. We currently have 15 high school students taking CNA. And
Can you do the mic? Can you ever come up to
Sorry about that. Thought my voice was loud enough. We currently have 15 high school students throughout the county that are taking CNA courses. I believe they're juniors, and they're taking it like it's 2 days a week, 1 week, 3 days the next, and they're doing it at the old, the ambulance area. So they're doing it in collaboration with Department of Workforce Development, the hospital, and the technical college. So they'll be graduating. When they graduate, they'll have those credits, and they can also take their general studies. So theoretically, by the time they graduate from high school, they could do 1 more semester and have their nursing degree. So that's it in action.
Thank you.
Sure.
It's just so we're clear, so that's just the 1-year LPN licensed practical nurse, not the ADN. But they would be well on their way to the ADN.
Is there any place in the materials you gave us that list all the classes that are available with the dual credits? Is that broken down in here anywhere? Or could you go online and find it on your website or something?
Yeah, you would go online to find it on our website. It's not in here. It varies, because it varies for every school, it's really up to the school district in terms of how many they want to have and what they want to do. It's not really possible for us to publish a catalog in that regard. So it very much has to do with what the school district has. Now, your 4 school districts, Sturgeon Bay, Fish Creek, and Sevastopol and Southern Door, have been very...
And Washington Island.
Washington Island, sorry. Oh, there I go. I really blew it. Now I got to go visit Washington Island in January. Nevertheless, have been working with us and actually have been very active in this arena. So the other thing that we do, and some of them have taken advantage of, is that we do have 2 mobile labs. One's doing the electromechanical, and the other one is doing machining. Those have been up here delivering classes as well. And it's actually, I've actually watched them load onto the ferry to go to Washington Island. I was glad I was not driving at that point. So.
I was.
So.
Susie?
Just a follow-up then. So I used to teach, and it's been a while, so I don't know if you still do it the same way, but at the time, high school teachers were asked to, a course they took, they would align their curriculum with your curriculum. Is that still how they're delivered, or do you have instructors going into the school?
There's different types. 80% though of our dual credit is what we call transcribed, and it is taught by the high school instructors. Those high school instructors must teach our curriculum, however, and use the same textbooks, do the same kinds of assessment. So when those students come out of that class, they could be in any college class. If they have been in college, they're learning the same thing. The other thing that's important is that the credits not only transfer to us, but they also transfer to the university. So those students who are taking AP courses or a business international or international business, or in this case, our dual credits, they all will transfer.
Yes, go ahead.
I'll just add, for Door County, we last year we had 245 students for a total of 1,326 credits for a cash value of $197,574 for the technical college if they're a transfer. 4-year for their per credit rate would be $434,928. So that's how much money those students saved by taking it locally.
I look at it as I've saved it right as a parent, but nevertheless.
Megan?
Thanks. First off, I want to say thank you, because just 3 years ago this January, I was able to be full-time at NWTC in order to refresh on my prereqs for my master's. And it was a fantastic experience. Just some really professional folks that you have running the school, and the coursework that was provided was just as top rate as when I received my bachelor's 15 years ago, and then also even more so than some of the coursework I've experienced through the University of Minnesota since then. But I do have a couple questions, so thank you for that, first of all. And I'm assuming with this 8-week schedule, would 6 hours then be considered full-time rather than 12?
No, actually, think of it as you're going to take those 2 courses. Typically, if you were taking them over 15 weeks, it would be 3 hours a week. It'd be 45 hours. Now you're going to take those 45 hours in 8 weeks. Still the same number of hours. It's just now you only have 2 courses that you're taking. So you're not really reducing the amount of time that you're spending studying or in school. It's just that you're reducing the number of courses you're taking at any one time.
Sure. So what's considered full-time then?
That's a good question. It would be, well, it would be 2. It would be 2 or 3, depending on how you set it up, yeah.
Depending on how many credits it is.
Yeah.
So, and the reason I ask is because with credit hours, a lot of the programs that the state has, the one that I was able to be a part of, for instance, they take a look at whether or not you are full-time. A lot of funding also takes a look at whether or not you are considered full-time.
Right.
So just
you would be
very
full-time
curious.
if you were taking, because it's essentially the same as taking 6 hours of credits.
Okay.
And 6 credits in 8 weeks would be half of 12.
Yep.
12 is full-time.
Okay, so 6 would be considered full-time then. And then does that, I know you had mentioned that 1% decrease in cost per year, is having this format decreasing that cost per credit or increasing that cost per credit?
Well, actually, that cost is focused on what the public taxpayer is paying for that.
Gotcha.
So, you know, that's a combination of we continue to do better in our utility costs. We continue to increase some of the automation, which is, allows us to serve more people with fewer dollars. What we are doing with students to try to reduce their cost, our latest venture, if you will, in that regard, and I keep in mind, you know, any dual credit, the dual credit you're taking in high school, at least that 80% you're not paying for. We've also gone through and rewritten our policies and reset and set up our credit for prior learning. So we will be offering more credit for prior learning, which means that you will have come in and we will have given you more credits that you will not have, well, you pay for the testing, but it's a nominal fee. So that's another way. The third way that's being worked on right now is what's called OER, or Open Educational Resources. And this is where faculty are finding resources primarily on the internet that they validate are being good, that are open resource. You don't have to pay for them as a student, and then using those as opposed to having students buy books. And that has the potential of saving students as much as $1,000 to $1,500 a semester, frankly, given the cost of books.
Yep, fantastic, thanks. May I continue?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I know that given the environment for kids going into education to be high school teachers, that has dropped off a bit. Are you seeing any of that affect your ability to find instructors for the coursework that you're providing at all?
I mean, there's no better place to work than our place.
Right.
So, you know, we just hire obviously we try to be employer first choice. But in certain fields, we have difficulty. They're primarily things like gas utility, electrical distribution. You'll find that a lot in the trades. That's because, frankly, right now you can go out and earn more money than we can pay in that regard. So that's an area that we struggle with, but we've been able to fill the positions. In health fields, we require a master's degree to teach the nursing programs. Occasionally, that gets in the way, but we've been able to find people. We have to work at it, but so far I would say that's not one of our most problematic areas.
All right, great, thanks. And then also, what do you see happening with the educational virtual environment at NWTC?
Well, of course, we offer we have about 10,000 enrollments in courses for online. That's about out of 100,000 enrollments, so that's about 10% is online. What we have found is that students in many cases are more interested in what we call a hybrid version, where they're taking the classes online, but maybe once a month they're coming to the campus in order to work together in that kind of hybrid format. So we continue to grow that actually more now than just strictly the totally online.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for all the support that you provide.
Okay, moving on to resolutions. 2018-70. Dave's not here. Would you like to explain that, Mr. Administrator?
Actually, for
Or
this
should we
one.
go right to
Grant substitute.
grant substitute?
Yes.
I'm looking for the
Grant
name there.
substitute.
Oh, shoot, there's no name.
Yes, so this resolution is in regards to guardianship cases. Our office handles the majority of guardianship cases for the county, which are the Chapter 54 guardianships. This designation would allow our office to also handle the Chapter 48 guardianships, which right now is handled by the DA's office. Given the expertise on these cases in our office, since we primarily handle these types of matters, it would allow for a more expeditious handling of these cases when they do arise. Since the Chapter 48 guardianships only come up maybe once or twice a year, they're pretty infrequent.
Okay, your motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll
A second?
I'll
Any-
second.
Thank you. Any questions on that? Suzie? And Megan?
Can you tell us the difference between the two types of guardianships?
Yes, Chapter 54 guardianships are for adults, Chapter 48 are children guardianships.
Megan?
That was my first question, so thank you. And but as a follow-up, are these often cases that are being worked in-house here as well? So being able to, and I guess what I mean is through Human Services.
Yes, the
Yeah.
Chapter 48 would be a result of a CPS case normally with Human Services.
Yep, okay.
Okay, any other questions? If not, we'll have a voice vote on this one. All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes. Moving on to 2018-71, transfer of non-budgeted funds. Supervisor Schultz.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2018-71, transfer of non-budgeted funds for Cana Island.
Is there a second to that? Mr. Verley? Do you want to explain that or
I'll
have?
let Mr. Ken do that.
That's fine.
Sure, so I can cover this one. Again, if you recall, if you look at some of the whereases, we already did authorize from the county board in up to $365,000 in unassigned fund balance. And what we did is we went through the process. We're working both with Mayo, who is the principal architect for the project, and also Emil, as far as the working also on costing. Due to a number of factors, obviously the costs are coming in higher. We have not gone out for bid yet, but just the projected costs are higher. And what you'll see is that we're requesting an additional $150,000 for the project before we go out to bid. You will see that under the one whereas you'll see the 12%. And I know that was one of the questions that was at finance. How do we go from 12% to 150? Obviously, that's more than that. But again, in this case, what we're trying to do is also include any potential contingency costs for each part of the phase of the project. And again, at this point, once we go out to bid, we would like to not have to come back for additional funds. So what we're looking for is, again, an additional $150,000 that would actually be transferred from our unassigned fund balance. And again, if you recall, we're actually borrowing money from one fund to another fund, which is our Cana Island fund. And as they have tourists, when they get their collections, there's a formula that we divide the cost with the Maritime Museum. As those funds come back in, we actually pay ourselves back to the unassigned fund balance. The one question that did come up at finance is, are we charging ourselves interest? No, we are not. So what we're doing is we're actually just collecting back whatever the total amount spent will be the total amount that we're going to try to recover and pay back into the fund balance itself.
Yes, Mr.
Just as a question, has there been any concern or issue in the past of not being able to pay ourselves back from them not taking in collections adequately? I don't think so, but, you know, the money they make, Cana Island and Maritime, they pay this back.
Correct.
There hasn't been an issue of that happening, has there?
No, in fact, actually, they've done a really good job with us. In fact, we just had a meeting last month in regards to, you know, how they audit their books and how they provide that information. And I think it's a very, I guess, strong relationship, very transparent, and they share, I guess, their operations very clearly with us, so that's been very positive. The one thing I did forget to mention is that when we presented this back originally for the 365, we projected about a 3.5-year payback. Under this, we're probably closer to a 4-year payback. I think they projected about 4.5 years. And again, part of the reason it could go sooner is that the actual numbers this year are actually higher than what the projections are. But again, I guess we're trying to be conservative what we're saying. So again, we're looking at approximately a 4-year payback of these funds.
That was my ultimate point, is their visitorship is obviously probably up. Right.
Correct.
Therefore, there's not a concern, so that takes the fear out of this. So.
And then I just, again, apologize, but one other question that did come up at finance is, you know, did we scale back, or are we doing things that are unreasonable in terms of what we're looking at for the building? And actually, if you would see the renderings once they go out for bid, and ultimately that will come back here, it's pretty much a basic building in terms of a rectangular design. There's nothing truly that would be of significance that we could probably cut back more. And again, I guess one of the things we want to make sure we do, if we do invest in this type of a building, we want to make sure that obviously it lasts given the conditions out on the island. So again, there's certain things that we want to maintain as far as the overall quality, so it doesn't become something that we have to put a lot of money in the future. So.
Any other questions?
Ken?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess I was the probably lone dissenter at the Finance Committee, and I didn't vote against it then, wanting to send it here. And listening to Ken's arguments, I think they're all, you know, rational arguments. But at the same time, I just seem I'm kind of stuck here on this resolution. You know, the 12% cost is about $44,000 additional cost to it. A contingency, if you look at 12, 15%, I'm not sure what the usual contingency would be, but probably in that range. You're approaching $100,000, and we're asking for $150,000. I guess you know, there's comments that the costs are going up, and no, you know, for next year as well above this, but and I know it's not taxpayer dollar, but I think we're still going through this process of getting estimates and bids, and you know, we need to use that money wisely. I related to a situation of my own 5-6 years ago after my barn had burned. I was looking to put up a structure. I didn't get it going in fall because I couldn't find the contractors for the cement work. Come January, February, I'm working on a price, and they said, well, materials have gone up 20% for the structure I was looking at. Well, that was unreasonable to me. I looked, I found a better price for less money than I had originally. And, you know, I think if we have this blank check, we're open to not doing our diligence.
Okay, thank you. Anybody, you want to comment on that?
I know Wayne was just going to come up on some of the numbers. I know that's why Wayne is walking up. I appreciate the comments, but I also know that Wayne, we're trying to do very hard our due diligence, because in fact on some of the things, if you recall, there's actually two parts to the project. One is I guess what we're calling the interpretive center itself, and then one's also for the garage. And we are working with them to see if there's ways, for example, to, I guess, do alternate bids to separate some of that. Because if you did let's say a commercial garage versus something that, I'm not going to say we're going to get a kit from Menards, but if we did something where we give a local contractor that could do residential construction, we think that we can get savings there. So we are looking for the savings, but maybe Wayne, you can cover where you came up with some of the numbers of why.
Yeah, so I can really appreciate the 12% and the disparity between those numbers, and that's how the resolution's written. However, so on the construction budget, what Emil really came up with was $449,000, and that's the construction piece. The other pieces that are not realized within the project on that $449,000 is we have heirs and their engineering cost, and so those are approaching about $25,000 on the project that are not part of that construction. And we also have the Mayo Studio. So there's another $25,000 there. The contingency on Emil, what they had was only 5% in their construction, and that's small in my estimation. So I would actually like to have a little more money there. So when I did the overall budget for this project, I'm carrying an extra $40,000 or so, Dave. And so I think that's maybe a little conservative, but I think that's fair on the project on the island. And so when we bid out the project overall, we're going to bid out the garage that's on the mainland as an alt, so that if it comes in even higher than what's expected, so our construction area is not really northeast Wisconsin as it was described to us. So Door County, and then when we look at the island as a project area, sometimes comes in a little bit higher because we cannot get those bidders to bid on that project because they don't want to bring their crews up from the Fox Valley. So there's a lot more cost associated there. So we have to try and find local construction companies. So that's where we're trying to carry that little bit of extra within the budget. Not that we're going to spend it, but it will be available so we don't have to come back to county board again because we didn't do our proper planning the first time. Does that make sense?
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Ninus.
Is there a quote-unquote magic number up there that we're going to say, wait a minute, this is far enough, it's high enough, we're going to have to do something?
I don't remember that in our discussions.
Well, again, I think the numbers that Wayne has provided you is probably the best estimate that we have now that the drawings are done and we flushed out as much as we could in terms of both costs. And again, I think Emil has done if you're familiar, Emil did the work on our community center, and I think he probably got in within about 5% as far as the bid numbers that he thought would come in, so we were very comfortable with their work. So again, obviously the island is a little bit of a wild card, but I mean, the number you're seeing is what we're kind of projecting. So, I mean, this is the gut check now that we're expecting the project to be about this amount.
Are you referencing just this project or the overall Cana Island project?
Well, I keep seeing this going up and up and up, and pretty soon where are we going to draw a line and say, whoop, stop, we need to make some adjustments here?
Again, that's why we're here today. If you think we crossed that line, that's what we need to discuss. But again, the building itself, I don't think we can cut back any further. So both in terms of both size and I guess as far as materials and design, I don't think anything that there is out of the ordinary in terms of what we'd want in terms of construction. So yeah, I mean, that's part of the discussion today. That's why we're here today, just to kind of give you an idea where we think the numbers are going to be at and get the authorization for that. So
when we look at the economy of scale on the building, there are essentially 2 walls inside the building, and then we have 4 walls that create the building. That's all there is. So we have a utility room and a closet inside the building. The rest of it's wide open. And then there's casework for a retail area.
But the only thing I would say that's unique about the building is obviously we need to store the lens. So
Yes.
the lens requires, just because of the size and the height, requires a special taller portion of the building.
Yeah, and we have HVAC and heating requirements because we want to keep the lens as an organization on the island intact. So the Coast Guard is taking the lens out of the lighthouse, and we want to keep that there. So that's a draw for tourist dollars that helps pay for the project and bring it back. We talked a little bit about the Maritime Museum's numbers being up. So they're up 21% this year. And the projections is that they'll be up again when we have this interpretive center. And now, I can't guarantee that, but that's their projection and their public relations that says that that'll happen.
Okay, Mr. Verley?
Yeah, the way I look at this is basically a loan to ourselves. The Maritime Museum, is running the Cana Island for us. And then they share the revenues that come in, they share half of it comes back to us to be used for Cana Island. But it's part of our park system. Door County owns it. The Maritime Museum doesn't own it. They're running it, but they don't own it. So this is very important that we get this building built so that they can, for all the reasons that have already been stated, for the gift shop and the reception center and whatnot. So the money, it's only a matter of time, but it's going to get paid back to ourselves by the revenue that comes in. So I don't see it as a problem at all, because it's part of our park system. We own it. So I think it's important to get this done now and not wait, because what Wayne just said, if we wait to do this down the road, it's just going to get more expensive to do it. So, that's the way I feel about it.
Supervisor Bacon?
Well, I would just like to add that this is probably our #1 tourist destination.
Yeah.
It is extremely popular. We have a lot of people coming to Cana Island, and I think we need to present a professional interpretive center, and there's a lot that goes on there. There's a lot that we're doing to promote it, as well as make it a viable, long-lasting tourist attraction.
Would you like to chime in as chairman of the committee, Mr. Ostead?
Well,
You don't have to, I'm only asking.
When things are going right, I just don't be quiet.
I understand. I have a question. Could you explain the situation with the lens for us all?
We do. So what the Coast Guard's doing is they're putting I think it's a Marcana lens in there. So they're divesting the Fresnel lenses from all of our lights around the country. So they're labor intensive. You can't rebuild that glass. It's essentially a lost art. So if you can remove them, they have smaller lenses. They don't go out nearly as far. So I believe this might be a 9-mile lens, Joel. It's probably a 9 or 12-mile lens. The new ones only go about 6 miles, but they're automated. They can actually program them with a remote from the ground, and the people that come and work on them, they're very cheap, right? Inexpensive when I say cheap, right? They're still very good. So we had essentially the same types of lenses at Sherwood Point. We'll still have the same lens at the Canal Station. So they can't source the parts, so they remove the lens, and it's in our best interest to try and keep it. So I can't remember which lens is in the Maritime Museum. Dan, you may know.
Different sizes, I don't know what the number is.
Yeah, but so that one draws people to Door County just to come and see it and stamp their passport. So we get thousands of visitors to come and say, oh, I saw it, took a picture, they stamped their passport, and that brings tourist dollars, right? And so they'll do the same thing. They'll come to the island just to see it, take a picture, stamp their passport, and then they'll go to Whitefish Bay, right, to that lens, and they'll go do that. So that brings people. Those attractions bring people. And so that's what we're trying to accomplish. When I say we, it's the Maritime Museum, not necessarily Wayne. Right.
Okay, what I was getting at though, unless I'm wrong on this and tell me if I am, that the Fresnel lens that's in there now belongs to the Coast Guard.
It does, and it will remain there as their property.
They will let us keep it on our property as long as we maintain it to a certain standard.
Yeah, so it'll go on permanent loan essentially to the Maritime Museum.
Right.
Or it may be to Door County. I'm not sure how that's going to work out yet. That'll be a conversation I have to have with Corp Counsel.
Yeah.
But it'll be in our building essentially.
But that somewhat dictated the way we built.
Yes, yes. So we have HVAC requirements that we have to keep. So we have to keep it heated and we have to keep it cooled in that section. So we maintain the environment for the historic preservation of the lens.
Okay. Ms. Lundell?
That pertains to my question as well, very similar. And I would, if it is on loan, I would like to see it on loan to the county rather than the Maritime Museum if we're spending our dollars to maintain that environment. Just putting that out there.
Okay. Mr. Ostead?
Well, I was going to say, the Coast Guard's going to definitely take the lens out, so we had to do something or lose it. And once it's gone no matter where, someplace.
Right, that's what I was getting at. We want to get it back if we let it go.
I always heard the rumor that the one on Chambers Island is out in Colorado or someplace like that, some museum.
So similar situation, I don't want to get too far off track here. The 41, the little white boat that you see at the Maritime Museum, you drive by it all the time, that's on permanent loan from the Coast Guard as a historic artifact. It was the last 41 in service in the Coast Guard ever. And it happened to be on the other side of the lake. It was stored in Milwaukee for a couple years, and we brought it up, put it in the ground on a cradle, and there it'll sit until the Coast Guard either wants it back or the Maritime Museum gives it back, but it'll probably be there forever. And there are a number of artifacts like that around Door County.
Okay, any other questions on it? If not, we'll go to the voter board. Okay, that passes on a vote of 18 to 1, with 2 absent. Okay, moving on to Resolution 2018-72, transfer of non-budget funds, design and order Door County case. Again, Ms. Schultz.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2018-72, transfer of non-budgeted funds, decision and order Door County case.
Okay, is there a second to that? Second. Second by Mr. Hennigle. Would you like to explain it or let the Assistant Corp Counsel?
We're going to let the assistant.
Thank you. So this involves some litigation the county was involved in from a motion to reopen a judgment from the 2016 in rem sales of our foreclosed properties. What was determined was that there was a procedural error that occurred, and there was a hearing that was held, and the judge decided on September 6th of this year to award Ms. Rove $20,000. That was the amount that was outstanding on her land contract on that property. The judge determined she was not notified of the sale of that property during the in rem procedure, so we were ordered by the judge in that decision to pay her that amount of money.
Any questions on that? No? If not, we'll go to the voter board. And that passes.
Second.
Let's see. Yeah, now it passes on unanimous vote, 19 no nays and 2 excused or absent. Okay. Resolution 2018-73, authorization to apply for and accept Wisconsin DOA, Department of Administration. Okay. Grant for invasive species outreach and education. We have a motion on that. Let's see, Mr. Ninus, do you want to take it as vice chair of the committee?
Thank you. I'll make a motion to accept 2018-17.
A second.
Who seconded? Mr. Boltman? Okay, and Aaron will explain it.
The motion before you is to apply for and accept a grant that will further our outreach and education efforts related to invasive species. The project builds on our success that we've had over the past decade in reaching out and educating people. And in this grant application, we're moving beyond the talking about prevention and taking the next steps to actually facilitate action by people to prevent invasive species. Through this, we are proposing to install 2 waterless boat cleaning stations at 2 county boat launches, and that's the reason why this application, this resolution is before you. We will be using some funding from the Boat Launch Reserve Fund as part of the grant match if we are successful in obtaining this grant. The rest of the match will come from soil and water staff time. So the project has time for us to do outreach and education events that will be tied directly to the installation of the waterless boat cleaning stations and also boot brush stations along the Anape Trail and a number of other pieces related to our Play Clean Go campaign. We're trying to keep Door County a leader in invasive species prevention efforts, and this is our next step that we want to take. So the resolution is to apply for, and if we are successful in being selected for that grant, accept the funding.
Okay, thank you. What we are talking about is a fancy vacuum cleaner for boats, to put it simply?
Sure, it has the tools needed to clean your boat after you remove it from the launch, so before you move on to your next location.
Okay. Any questions on that? Mr. Enigal?
At finance, there was discussion about powering the devices and a comment made about using renewable energy.
Yes.
Has somebody researched it a little further?
Yes, they are looking into that, and I believe there are solar panels that can be used to provide the power for that.
Have they gotten the cost difference?
It appears that it's either going to be the same or less, and we'll build that into the budget.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other questions? Mr. Boltman?
I would just like to make a comment in support of this, the work that the Conservation Department is, or the Land and Water Department is doing to not only safeguard our own habitats, but also to, especially from the boating standpoint, people come from all over the Midwest with boats, and if we can help prevent the spread of zebra mussels and other aquatic invasives to other lakes elsewhere in other states, that's important too. So we're being good stewards, and it's great practice. So.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Ninus, you have that smile on your face. Would you like to comment at this time? Again, you don't have to. Okay. Anybody else? All right. Are we going to go to the voter board on that?
Yep.
Let's go to the voter board. Are you ready? And that passed 19 yea, 0 nay, and 2 absent. Okay. Ordinances, there are no ordinances. New business, no. Any, are you done playing YouTube?
Yeah.
Wow. Earl, I couldn't help it.
He's being nice and picking up my pen.
I picked her pen up.
Yeah.
I see. You know, we always put the troublemakers in the front row.
That's why you're up in front.
Touche. Any oral committee reports? Anybody? No. Review committee minutes? Vouchers, claims, and bills. Any questions on those? Yes, Mr. Enigal. Mr. Engelberg.
I would appreciate that when vouchers are scanned in, that they're put on the right way. It's pretty hard to read it when we turn our laptops this way. So it was almost impossible for me to read the vouchers this month.
Okay.
And then they keep moving.
We'll do our best.
So you read all last night.
Any other comments on them? Okay. We don't need a motion on that. They're already pre-approved, right? Yep. Okay. Announcements. Next regular county board meeting is November 13th and 14th if necessary, because that's the budget. That would be at 9 a.m. Is that acceptable, Mr. Gunlickson? Yes, it is. Okay. Mr. Administrator?
Sure. Just one other special, or just an announcement. I'm working with Aaron, and as part of the demo farms and also the projects that's going on within Land and Water, we're trying to set up a special tour. I did talk with David Lino and also Mr. Fisher to get it authorized, but I'd like to make sure that we have, I guess, people to attend. What we're looking at doing is doing a half-day, I guess, tour with the logistics to be, I guess, finalized of some of the egg practices that are occurring in Door County. We're looking at doing that on November 15th. And I guess what I'd like you to do is to check your calendars for the block of time from 8 until noon. And I'd like to, if you could, either confirm that with me or with Jill. I just want to make sure that we have enough people that are actually able to attend to make it worthwhile. Otherwise, we will try to find an alternate date. So again, we're looking at November 15th, which is a Thursday, from 8 until noon. And we did check, there shouldn't be any meeting conflicts as far as that part. That should be fine. But again, if you could let us know if you could make that date, that way we can confirm and make that come together. And I guess the only favor I'd ask is if you could confirm as soon as possible, maybe by the end of this week, that'd help us, because again, we're working with 2 different farms in terms of trying to get their time lined up to meet with us during that time. So again, their time is also valuable, so I guess I'd like to make sure we can get that lined up as soon as possible. So if you could let us know by maybe the end of this week. I'm not sure what the magic number is as far as yes or no, but I just want to make sure that we have, a number of people that can actually attend.
You want us to let you know yes or no?
Please.
Can we say yes now so we don't have to call you?
Yes, you could.
Yes.
Okay.
Wait. See,
Megan?
Huh?
who's available? Okay, who can't make it?
I cannot.
1, 2, 3, 4. I'm missing 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're possible or you don't?
I'm iffy.
Okay. 4.5 can't. Oh, Dave, you can't?
Correct.
Okay, 5. So the majority of the board can make it, correct? So we will plan it.
Okay.
All right.
Consider it confirmed then.
All right, the meeting code will be 967.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take this opportunity away from you and make the motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, we are adjourned. Thank you, one and all.